Good evening. As regular viewers will know, I'm doing a little mini-series on the astonishing number of lines that were planned by the Railway London Plan Committee in 1944. This was a series of lines that would run across London to help relieve pressure on existing lines, to link the existing lines together better, and to help the city recover and grow in the wake of the Second World War. And now people who aren't regular viewers also know that. We're up to Route 5. Route 5 actually bears many similarities to Route 4. Both start in the southeast of London, both pass through the new below-ground station planned at Tower Bridge Road, and both travel through the West End. As with all the lines we've looked at so far, Route 5 would have been a mainline route that went underground through central London. And as with Route 4, we will start in the south. The line began, if you're going south to north, at Hither Green. The plan doesn't specify exactly which route it would have taken to get to Tower Bridge Road, but the report states that ideally they would have liked to run the lines together wherever practical. Therefore, I'm going to work on the basis that this line would have gone through Lewisham. I know I've made the mistake of assuming things before, but I never learn. Then it would come to Tower Bridge Road. For those of you who have been keeping up with this series and are tired of repetition, you'll be glad to know that this is the last of the planned lines to use this station. What's interesting, though, is that this line would then have proceeded south of the river. The lines we've looked at so far have had a heavy emphasis on the city and the West End of London, but a major priority in post-war redevelopment was economic improvement of the communities of Southwark and Bermondsey. Better transport connections were an integral part of that. This line would replace the viaduct routes then in existence, which were seen as creating physical divides between communities. Very psychogeographical. Probably. I don't know what psychogeographical actually means. No one does. Then we come to a very major change that I haven't even touched on before. Waterloo. Waterloo then, as now, was a hugely important commuter station located just outside the West End. Actually, it was two stations, Waterloo and Waterloo Junction. The reasons for this are complicated and involve disputes between railway companies and Victorians being silly. Waterloo Junction is now Waterloo East, and the two are connected, on foot at least, but the idea was a total rebuild of Waterloo Junction for greater capacity. The aim was to take the strain off Cannon Street, Charing Cross, London Bridge and Holborn Viaduct stations. The result would have been a truly enormous complex of railway lines. At one time there was a rail connection between Waterloo and Waterloo Junction, and this was something they also wanted to reinstate. I don't know how that would have worked. Presumably they'd have to rebuild the concourse. From Waterloo, Route 5 would cross the river to Charing Cross. Charing Cross was a station the committee envisioned rebuilding, possibly replacing it with something smaller after the completion of the new Waterloo Junction. Its proximity to the West End meant they weren't keen to get rid of it altogether. The next stop would have been Piccadilly Circus, where it would connect with Route 4. Now, as I said in the video on that line, I do question how able Piccadilly Circus station would be to cope with this change, and I'd imagine a major rebuild would have been necessary. Next, Marble Arch, and then Paddington. At Paddington, the line would connect with the Great Western Railway's commuter lines towards Slough, Windsor, Taplow and Maidenhead. Thus concludes Route 5. So that's what was planned. What did we get? Well, the section south of the river is quite reminiscent of the Jubilee Line extension, at least as far as London Bridge. Of course, at that time the docks were still thriving, so I doubt anyone would have seen the need for an underground line north of the river through the Docklands. And the bit in the West End up to Paddington is echoed in the Elizabeth Line. Happily, we did not get the possible demolition and rebuilding of Charing Cross, or whatever horror they would have put up at Waterloo or Piccadilly Circus. Hello all, I hope you enjoyed this Quinnery tale from the Tube. If so, there is a like button that you may wish to click, and if you want to know more, then subscribe and click the bell icon to be kept in the loop on this series and other videos I do. So far, the lines we've talked about in this mini-series have been quite similar to each other. From here on, things get a little different. As always, a big thank you to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are the rebuild to my Waterloo Junction. And I'll see you all again very soon for another tale from the Tube.